There will be plenty of opportunity to ask questions at the end of the webinar. We've got a number of experts here available live to answer questions. To start off with, we've got a couple of pre-recorded sessions followed by 3 live sessions. So if we, without any further sort of delays, if we make a start, you may need to turn up your volumes to hear the videos.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar focused on options for our Level 3 learners as they enter the final year of their programs with us. As we set out in the letter to you, we ensure that learners enrolled on courses here at Uxbridge College are focused on their career goal from day one, and we place a lot of importance in ensuring that they have up-to-date information and advice in order to make the right choices. Now, it is essential that you as parents and guardians also have relevant information and advice so that you can support your son and daughter, the young person, our learners. Now, especially as we emerge from the pandemic, it is really important for our learners are very focused on their end career goal and the pathway that's going to get them there. We often describe this as keeping a clear line of sight to that career goal. They need to do their research. You as parents and guardians can advise and help. Now, we know from experience that those who focus early put themselves at a competitive advantage. And remember, many young people out there are doing the same. So it is vital to not get left behind with delays and late submissions. To get this right, learners and you, parents and guardians supporting them, need to plan early and take advantage of the range of support available at the college. Now, although your son and daughter will not finish until July 2022, it is vital they start thinking about their next step so that they don't miss out on these opportunities. University applications, you should be aware, for September 2022 open on May the 18th, 2021. And equally, application deadlines for large employer-led apprenticeships are in December 2021, January 2022 for July 2022 starts. So to support you, parents and guardians, our college careers team here is delivering this online webinar. And the webinar looks to cover a number of topics. To start with, indicators within the job markets as a result of the pandemic, post-Brexit impact, and where the future's heading regarding things such as Industry 4.0. Also, why go to university will also be an area of focus. Another aspect and option right here on your doorstep, and a very affordable option, is the West London Institute of Technology, which focuses on high-tech learning, very sought after amongst industry and local employers. In addition, apprenticeships, higher and degree apprenticeships as alternative to university, where you pick up earnings earlier than through more traditional higher study means. And then finally, a sort of general support that the college is able to offer our learners in the lead up to their applications and beyond. I'm sure you will find what follows of use, and as a reminder, the groundwork starts now and through the summer. Do not delay things until September. I hope you enjoy what follows. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was a message from our Group Principal and CEO, Daryl D'Souza. Just a welcome and sort of highlighting some of the key points that we'll be sort of covering in the webinar. The next presentation is from Andrew Dacre, who is the Chief Executive of West London Businesses. He's going to give an overview of the West London labour market. This is a abridged version, a shortened version of his presentation. His full presentation is 30 minutes long, and I've kind of just picked out some of the highlights. I will be putting the his full presentation on our website. So here we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Dacre, Chief Executive of West London Business, and in the next 15 minutes or so I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of how to navigate the West London labour market. I'm going to kick off with giving you a bit of a flavour of the shape of the West London economy. Then I'll take a look at the differing natures of the private, public and voluntary sectors, some of the factors that you may want to consider as you set out on your career journey. Then we'll talk briefly about the different business functions that exist within different sizes of enterprise and how they can present different routes into a sector or business of your choice. We'll move on to consider the pros and cons of different sizes of business, from large through to small and medium-sized enterprises, sometimes referred to as SMEs. And then the meat of my presentation is going to be around employment patterns and some of the future trends that we're currently predicting. And I'll wrap up with some brief reflections on the essential and digital skills that many employers are now seeking. I'm going to move along at quite a pace, but don't worry, these slides will be available after you've listened to this video recording, and will be available, I'm sure, from the West London Business website as well, westlondon.com. So to kick off, a very quick overview of what we mean when we talk about West London, perhaps slightly different to what many would imagine. We talk in terms of Northwest London being our West London. These 7 boroughs, Hammersmith and Fulham, Hounslow, Ealing, Hillingdon, Brent, Harrow and Barnet, that work together very closely on a number of different projects and programmes, and that's the same geography that the West London business team map onto. Economically, it's a hugely significant geography. 73 billion of GVA, of revenue, is generated every year. That's certainly pre some of the recent COVID challenges that we've been facing, and I'll come on to that later. But that makes these 7 boroughs arguably the second largest economic cluster in the UK after the Central London Economic Zone. So we're pretty lucky to be living and based here, in the variety of opportunities that it offers, and the volume of jobs in different industries. It's worth pointing out, perhaps before I move on to my next slide, that there are 2 quite critical economic hubs in Northwest London. One is Park Royal and Old Oak, where we've got a flag in the graphic. Park Royal is the UK's largest, or maybe second largest, industrial estate, so almost 2,000 businesses based in that area. And then, of course, we have Heathrow, which, as a vast airport, the UK's largest, one of the largest in the world, is our gateway to the world. And it's Heathrow that has seen, as it's grown over the past 60 years, we've enjoyed wider economic growth across West London, as employers have sought the advantage of being closely located to the airport. Now, I said we've got a 73 billion GVA economy, which is an extraordinary number, and you may wonder how that breaks down and where some of the largest concentrations of activity lie. It is very concentrated, and I'm just going to pick out for you here some of the larger clusters. The largest slice of this pie, of course, real estate activities at 18%. Quite a lot of that ties back to landlords, often sort of businesses in their own right, renting out different facilities for use. Then we have this 15% slice that's tagged as information and communication. I think critically worth noting that includes the creative and media sectors, which are so significant for West London as a geography. So the likes of the BBC and ITV and Sky and all of their production activity is tied up in that 15%. Then we have an 11% slice, which is the wholesale and retail trades, as well as repair of motor vehicles. So very practical activity, keeping cars, buses on the road. But retail would, for example, include Brent Cross shopping centre up in Barnet and Westfield over in White City. You've then got a transportation and storage slice that's at 10%. That's very well supported in good economic times, at least, by Heathrow and all the logistics activity there. But despite the contraction of Heathrow recently, the need to continue to import and export goods has seen cargo activity remain pretty strong at the airport. And then at 7%, we've got the construction industry. And hopefully it won't have escaped your notice that despite some of our recent economic challenges, there are still plenty of cranes across West London's skyline. So new buildings being built, but also a huge building stock that needs to be maintained and serviced. So that gives you a bit of a flavour of the some of the bigger concentrations in the economy. But alongside that, there are critical, slightly smaller slices, whether it's education or healthcare, that are also offering significant numbers of jobs locally. On this slide, I'm just sharing perhaps some very well-known brands to many of you. I'm sure the likes of British Airways or Sky will be familiar, but of course there are less well-known but still very impressive businesses that are located in our geography. And just to pick out three, the first that has always been a favourite of mine is Ormiston Wire in Isleworth, one of the oldest family-owned companies in the UK, established back in 1793, and their specialism is producing wire, and they've produced wire for everything from Harry Potter movies through to suspension bridges, so an extraordinary capability in that firm. Pentland, based up in Barnet, they're owners of the Speedo brand, so much of our swimwear tracing its way back to Pentland. And then Brompton Bicycles, you may well have seen that they're folding bikes coming on and off trains and buses, but you may not be aware that they're based in London Borough of Ealing in Greenford, manufacturing some 50,000 folding bicycles every year in that bit of West London. So fantastic businesses of lots of different sizes that are offering jobs and constantly recruiting in our geography. I said different sizes. I think it's useful to have a sense of the spread of businesses across the different sort of strata of size of companies. And we often talk in terms of micros, small, medium, and then large, sort of very large enterprises. And if you look on the right of this table, you can see the totals for our 7 West London or Northwest London boroughs. Very strikingly, of 120,000 odd businesses in total, 110,000 of those are micros, so employing 0 to 9 members of staff. You know, that's the long tail, and you know, that's where an awful lot of us will end up working in those micro enterprises. Here at West London Business, we're just at a point where we're moving from employing 9 staff to employing 10 staff, so moving from being a micro to a small organisation. Just over 10,000 organisations and largely businesses in our area are employing 10 to 49 staff, so they're small businesses. And then the numbers start to get a lot smaller, just over 2,000, medium-sized, employing 50 to 249 staff. And in the very large corporation sort of strata and business strata, 375 businesses across our seven boroughs. They have a very high, obviously a high concentration of staff numbers in that small number of organisations, but it's an interesting spread that I think is not always visible as we travel around our West London. So what might you be weighing up when you look at the public sector? So I'd give you here an example of Hillingdon Council as an employer. The private sector, we've got Coca-Cola European Partners based in the sub-region, or voluntary non-profit organisations that will have a combination of volunteers helping them as well as paid professional staff. And I give the example of Green Corridor, a very long established non-profit organisation in our geography. Well, on the private sector dimension, I'm just going to highlight one advantage, being that whilst the public sector has, over the past 10 years since the last financial crisis, perhaps been contracting, we've seen quite considerable growth in numbers of businesses and job opportunities in the private sector. Perhaps a disadvantage of working in the private sector is often private sector organisations can be very competitive environments with quite a strong emphasis and pressure to deliver on sales to make sure that the revenue keeps coming in to secure long-term growth and employment. In the public sector, by contrast, you'll perhaps more often come across a staff ethos and culture that is very strongly focused on positive social outcomes, which can be very attractive. That's not exclusive to the public sector. That is perhaps a growing trend in many businesses, but it's perhaps at the root of all public sector organisations. The downside, though, may be that you're faced with slightly lower pay on average compared with the private sector, but that's not always the case. The voluntary and non-profit sector, by contrast, very strongly socially and sometimes environmentally focused in terms of their purpose and the outcomes that they're looking to achieve. But there is a constant focus on fundraising and sometimes quite a high insecurity of income, which can then play through into staff roles not being so secure either. So that's a flavour of some of the factors to weigh up. But as I said, we will circulate these slides for you to peruse the detail more in your own time. But I just want to wrap up talking to you briefly about both essential skills and digital skills in their broadest sense. So the employer community today is increasingly looking at these 8 skills that have been defined by the Skills Builder Partnership. So you've got underneath the communication banner, listening and speaking. In the creative problem-solving space, employers looking for problem-solving skills and abilities as well as creativity. In the self-management space, a need for staff that can stay positive and also aim high, bringing real ambition to their roles and future career trajectory. And then finally, a huge importance placed on an ability to collaborate, bringing leadership skills to every situation and also team working abilities. And the Skills Builder Partnership on their website have defined in much more detail what this means, both from staff coming in at an entry level, relatively little experience, right the way through to senior leaders. So this is a framework and way of measuring your essential skills that you can start in your teens and 20s, but equally in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you should keep coming back to check your progress and continued development. So that's essential skills, but what employers are also talking about is the criticality of digital skills. And on this slide, you can see along the bottom, the proportion of employees that employers now think need to have advanced digital skills. And so what's striking here is that you've got some 12% of employers that are saying that more than 75% of their employees in their business are going to have advanced digital skills. 15% of employers are saying that 51 to 75% of their workforce are going to have advanced digital skills. The other end of the spectrum, only 20% of employers are saying that they need no advanced digital skills in their workforce. So, you know, this move up the digital skills spectrum is becoming quite stark. So to wrap up, a few kind of key takeaways I hope for you from this whistle-stop tour of West London's economy and labour market today. You know, important to note just how diverse our economy is in West London. You know, it really is rich with opportunity, but also some quite significant concentrations of activity and particularly large sectors. I think it's important to remember that you're just as likely to work in a small business as a large one, and businesses of all shapes and sizes offer plenty of exciting opportunities for you to grasp. It's worth reflecting, though, on the different cultures of different sizes and types of organisation as you start to make choices about where you might most want to seek out employment opportunities, or indeed progress onto more studies to set yourself up as best as possible to access those opportunities. There are hidden roles out there that you might not have considered or even heard described previously in your sector or employer of choice. So do probe as deeply as you can into what's out there and think laterally about how you might get your initial foot in the door of an employer or sector. COVID has created a lot of volatility in our labour market, but the good news is, as I said, if you look at the Indeed data, job adverts are now almost back to their pre-pandemic levels. And finally, essential and digital skills are now vital in pretty much all roles. And your progression over the years is going to rely on a continuous personal improvement approach throughout your working life, not seeing your time at school or college as the end of your journey, but perhaps just the beginning to all the learning and discovery that's still in store. Thank you for listening, and please do let us know. You can email me or any member of the team at West London Business if you think there are any key questions that we've left unanswered and you'd like us to address the next time we bring this video together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I understand a number of people are having difficulty hearing the videos. My apologies, there were some gremlins in the system, but I assure you now that we've got live speakers and you should be able to hear them pretty clearly now. Okay, so just the key takeaways from what Andrew said is essentially that employers are looking for some really key skills or essential skills and digital skills. Those are the skills that young people do need to develop. But also that the West London, Northwest London economy is quite vibrant. It's one of the sort of leading sort of sub-hubs in London in terms of employment and opportunities. And vast majority of the opportunities will be with small employers. We are now going to get into the real kind of detail of sort of your options. And the first speaker we have in terms of option is Teddy from Coventry University. Teddy, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Great stuff. Teddy is going to talk about why, young people, students should consider going to university. So over to you, Teddy.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Teddy. I'm a student recruitment specialist from Coventry University. So before we start, I just want to say, in my presentation, I got a QR code on the right corner. If you want to get information from Coventry University after the talk, so you can scan the barcode and fill in the form. A bit introduction about myself, my academic background, also my professional career. So I did my bachelor degree in development economics, and then after graduated from uni, I got a job working as marketing executive for a shopping center. I worked there for a year and a half, and then I decided to do my master degree at Coventry University. So my master degree was in marketing management, which is at the time I was interested in marketing, and I wanted to study a bit more about marketing because my bachelor degree wasn't in marketing. And then after graduated from Coventry University, I have been working in the education sector since then. Can I have the next slide, please, Kieran? Yep. So in the talk today, I want to share with you some of the reasons that why university is good for young people. So just a bit of the definition of university. So university is an educational establishment which offers higher education qualification. University typically provide undergraduate and postgraduate education, and in the next slide I will break it down into different level and will explain more about what is undergraduate and what is postgraduate. Next, please. Yep. So this is a qualification framework. We have 8 levels. So level 2 is for GCSE, and for yourself or for your children studying level 3 at the moment, typically is A-level BTEC or International Baccalaureate. That are those are popular program for young people, and it normally take 2 years. And for adult students who didn't have a level 3 qualification, some of the colleges also offer access to higher education, which take 1 year. And from level 4 to level 6, typically it is undergraduate program. So level 4 equivalent to year 1 in university, level 5 for year 2, and level 6 is for year 3. And after level 6, there will be level 7 and 8. Level 7 is a master degree. It can be MA, it can be MSc, it can be some other degree, MEng for engineering. And after that, there is a PhD program. Alongside with the academic study, there are some options for apprenticeship. I think it's ranging from level 1 up to level 6. Next slide, please. Yep. So in this one, I will talk more about why university is good for young people. Next, please. So basically, a lot of young people want to go to university to study more in a specific subject. Up to year 11 with GCSE, I believe that student will study a wide range of subjects. And in level 3, it will narrow down into 3 or 4 subjects, but it's still quite wider topic. Some people might choose very various topic from art and design, combined with psychology, combined with law. But in university, you tend to specialize in just one subject, and you will study that subject for 3 years. So that means there are a lot of research in your study, and also the university have a program that prepare you for different level of study, and we will give you different assignments for you to develop different skills. And in the next slide, I will talk about one of the strongest skill that you will learn in university. So which called transferable skills, which is a skill set which will be transferred from one situation to another situation. For example, in university, you might be given an assignment that you will have to do research about company. You analyze their income, their strategy, and do a presentation. So within that assignment, you will do like a research skills, critical thinking skill, analytic skills, and also presentation skills. So within university, it's not just about the knowledge, it's also about different skill set that prepare you for the workplace in the future. Can I have the next slide, please? So in the next part of my presentation, I will give you some more idea about the career perspectives and the salary. But before I start, I just want to say, to give you a number of 97% of Coventry University students got employed, or they are in further study within 6 months after graduate. This is a very promising number for our students, and it means that Coventry University, we prepare our students the best that we can to their career in the future. Can I have the next slide, please? So before we start further, there is a note that I want you to know that there are some career that you will definitely need a higher education qualification. You cannot get into these kind of job if you don't have a degree. For example, some medicine, dentistry, nursing, vet, architecture, or law, policing, or teacher. There will be no go if you don't have a qualification in this kind of in a university qualification. However, not all career require you to have to study specific subjects, and employers now recognize transferable skill that graduate can bring to the job. So I give you a live example of my marketing team. I do have a marketing degree. However, within my team, we have colleagues coming from different backgrounds. Some study psychology, some study law, some study history. But what we all have in common is we have a set of skill set that will be applied in different way or transfer from their previous study until this one. For example, some of my colleagues can study psychology, but she can easily deliver a presentation talking about what psychology like in university, that all kind of things. And also in university is also the time for you to figure out what you really want to study, and whether or not the subject that you study will be a suitable professional career for you after graduate or not. And within the first 1 or 2 jobs, you will figure out more about what you want to do in the future. That's why going to university benefit a lot in terms of preparing yourself, not just in the area that you study, but also prepare for you to adapt to different situations in the future. Can I have next slide, please? So this, in this slide, is a job description, and you can see that the first line in this job description is essential that the candidate need to have a degree or equivalent. Equivalent here can mean a higher apprenticeship. Yep. Can I have a next slide, please? And this is another job description from the NHS. The qualification and professional training requirement. They specifically require students to have a degree or diploma in physiotherapy. Next, please. So next is a comparison between the median salaries. So the first column is about graduate salary, which is 34,000 a year, and the next one will be those who got a postgraduate degree. They will earn roughly about 40,000 a year, and for those who do not have any degree, they earn about 24,000 a year. So you can see that the gap between those who got a degree and who don't have a degree is about 10,000 £10,000 a year, or compared to those who have a master degree or higher than master degree, it is £16,000 a year. So that's the big gap. Some people might criticize me about some successful example of like Bill Gates or someone who doesn't have a degree, but they still become millionaire. Then I think the key point here is education and higher education. I don't mean to say you have to go to university to earn higher than other people, but university is a great platform that we design for you step by step from year 1, year 2, year 3. So it's kind of like a progression. If you confident that you can do, there are a lot of forms of like self-education. So if someone can confidently saying that they can do self-educate, then that's absolutely fine. It's just like in university, we put everything in the same place. So you kind of like going from step 1, step 2 to step 3. And for those who don't go to university, they might take more time for them to figure out what they can learn and what skill set apply into different area, different situation, or different job. Next slide, please. So in this one will be some of the idea about the salary in different industry. So you can see here the banking, finance, or like manufacturing or construction have quite high salary. And also we compare the salary between gender, and also like the first table is the salary, the median salary of those who ranging from 16 to 64 years old. And the second one is mainly focused on young people, pretty much fresh graduate or within 10 years of their career. Yep. Next, please. Yep. So some other reason that young people should go to university, or is this a motivation for them to go to university? Next, please. I think I want to highlight this one as one of the most important things is you make new friends in university. And what friends can do for you is basically you in university student will meet friends from different area in the country or international student coming from different part of the world. We all share with each other the same class, and people might come from different perspective, and that is a time that you really need to like critical thinking in terms of like what is good, what is not good, and you learn a lot from friends. And also friends in university can be also your network in the future, so they can be those who can support you to get a job in the future, or sometime they can kind of like form with each other to have a business together. So I think networking is always important, as I believe that a lot of parents here would agree with me in terms of like networking. It's not just about the job that you can find online, but it's a lot of the time it can be who you know in the market who can give you not necessary to give you a job, but they can give you a direction or connect you with different people that can help you in the career. And also one of the other important aspect in university is the socialize, the lifestyle in university. University is a great experience, and lucky enough I have kind of like two university experience because I did my bachelor degree and also my master degree in two different uni. In Coventry University, we have more than 160 student society ranging from academics. You can share with each other your thought about the subject that you study in university, or can also be different topic like sport, cultures, and different things. So personally, when I was at Coventry University, I joined in Taekwondo Society and Street Dance Society, and I would have to say that it's an amazing experience. It can be something that distract you from the stress of studying, and also a great way to socialize with people. Also, like I participated in some competition as well. And the next thing is in university, there are a lot more opportunity. For example, at Coventry University, we are known for the first in overseas student experience. What does it mean is in 2019, we sent 5,600 students abroad. So we have partnership with different institutions in different countries, and we send our students for exchange program. They can study there for a year and then come back to Coventry University to finish their last year. I would say that in university, it's not just a specific thing that you go to university to study, but a lot of opportunity that the university, your friends, and different program around the university can give you, and build up your CV, build up your skill to get yourself ready for the workplace in the future. When I was in university, I had two internships, one in Malaysia for 2 months and one in Korea for 3 months. And it definitely made my CV stand out when I apply for jobs after graduate. Next please. Also in university is a time that you can do a lot of research in the subject that you want to study. And also there are a lot of facility that support you to do this. You have like very experienced academics with either academic background, or some of them have very rich professional career that can give you some insight about the area that you want to do research, and also the facility in university such as library or computer or some other research lab will be very beneficial for you as well. I don't know if I still have a time to talk a little bit about Coventry University Group or not.
Not to, it's running a little bit tight, but you can say a few words.
Yeah, okay. So just at the end of my presentation about why Coventry University, I also want to highlight here there are different types of universities. So at Coventry University at the moment we have six campuses in the UK. So we have 2 campuses based on the traditional learning style, which is like you study 6 modules in a year, about 3 modules at the same time, and then end of year exam, which is one in the main campus in Coventry, and one is Coventry University London campus, which is like international hub. And we also have other extension of Coventry University, which we call CU campuses. These we have campuses in Coventry, London, and Scarborough, and this is an alternative way of traditional university. Students will study 1 module at a time, 4 modules in a year, no end of year exam, but instead they will do more assignments. Entry requirement is slightly lower than the main campus, and also the tuition fee is ranging from 6,500 to 7,700 pounds per year. So it's like 2,000 to 3,000 cheaper than the standard university. So the reason that we have these kind of campus is to just offer higher education to everybody, because we understand that some people might have coming from lower income background, or have some lower entry requirement, but they do want to go to university. So like I say, during my presentation, there are some barcode there. If you want to have some more questions about Coventry University, please scan the barcode and fill in the form, then we will get in touch with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teddy. Okay, we're going to move very quickly on, and an area which is becoming a real big sort of an option for our students is sort of apprenticeships. Just to say, Teddy, hopefully you'll be around to sort of take questions at the end.
Yeah, okay, that was my questions you wanted to say around, but okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
So we've got Joe with us, one of our directors at the college. Joe, are you with us?
I'm here. Thank you,
Great
Kieran.
Stuff.
Thank
Joe,
you.
over to you.
Over to me. Apprenticeships.
So,
thanks. Yeah. So Kieran's already introduced the Fire It Up campaign. And Kieran, if you just want to whiz on to the next slide, and he's kindly introduced me. So yes, I'm Jo Withers, one of the college's exec directors for our employer services. So you might well have seen the Fire It Up campaign. Certainly the younger people that have logged in might well have seen it. And actually it was essentially about promoting the benefits of apprenticeships as a really credible option to help kickstart your careers. So moving on to the next presentation, onto the next slide, what I really want to do through the next few minutes is just to help people understand, have a bit of an overview about what the apprenticeships are, perhaps the benefits, and a bit more detail about the recent reforms that they have gone through and actually what that means now for apprenticeships. And I think it's really important for people to recognise that apprenticeships have gone through really significant reforms over the last sort of 4, 5, 6 years. And they really are now, the intent was to raise equality. So they become a really prestigious pathway of study, which also contributes to making our economy a much more productive economy. So it's an excellent, a really excellent model, an excellent provision. So just to pick out a couple of key features there on this slide, Apprenticeships, they're known as standards, so they're really quite different to what you would see in a traditional qualification. And they're all made up of various qualifications or other employer-related knowledge and skills according to whatever apprenticeship pathway you might choose to go down. But they are known as standards. You are at work, and that's essentially what it is. You will spend the majority of your time in the workplace. And so therefore you get a minimum wage, and that's set for apprentices to ensure that you are paid at a decent wage. And you do have to be at work for at least 30 hours a week. So it's quite different to a traditional academic route. But to ensure that you're getting adequate learning, you must be given, and the employers have to give people, you have 20% of your time is devoted to studying and engaging in those learning activities. And what's been quite new and very significant in the funding in the apprenticeship reforms is this new final independently graded assessment, and that's quite key. So in the same way that you would get for your BTEC, where you'll get a pass merit distinction, and that you might get the same from a degree, apprenticeships are now no longer just a pass or fail. You can get a pass merit distinction, or again, there's a slight variation there, which is great, and it is independently assessed by an external examiner. And the other key significance is the duration. So your current BTECs or other equivalents would be are for a year. You might be here for 2 years, but essentially they're sort of perhaps 2 one-year programs. So because an apprenticeship is so vast and you're gaining such a lot, they are for a minimum of 12 months. And with very few actually being for as short as that, they usually can be anywhere from 15 months up to 4 years, depending on what it is that you're studying. So there's a real sense of commitment in terms of employer commitment and, of course, learner commitment that you're going on to. And it is a joint venture. You will be trained by both the workplace and also the provider that's supporting you through that. So it's quite unique and quite different. So if you just want to move on, Kieran, to the next slide. Thank you. What I want to do is just to outline some of the benefits of apprenticeships and why would you want to embark on this. Well, first of all, because you're at work, you're going to earn a salary, which is absolutely fantastic. And you're gaining an experience or qualification or apprenticeship standard that has been designed by key representatives of the sector. So it's really relevant. What you're studying is really relevant for your chosen career. And it's completely designed for that job role that you're choosing to go into. Now, if you were choosing to go into an apprenticeship at the age of 16 and going to work, you're gaining all of that employment experience alongside doing all your studies. And so actually, if you compare that to a 16-year-old school leaver, which I appreciate many of you will be older than that, you will actually have gained 7 more years worth of work experience than perhaps if you chose to go through an academic route. And the value of work experience there is vast, as you'd already sort of heard there from Andrew about essential skills earlier on. So actually, you really are kickstarting yourself within the workplace. You're not embarking on any loans or any debt, because actually they're completely fully funded by the employer and by the government. So even if you choose to do a degree apprenticeship, you don't have to accrue any debt, which has got to be a real benefit, I know. And then really finally, you're getting a great chance of employment. We can see the national statistics that 90% of apprentices will stay in employment after their course ends, which is absolutely fantastic stats. And quite often employers will keep you on as a permanent member of staff because they've trained you for their workplace, which is just fantastic. And I think one of the most significant benefits from the funding reforms and from the apprenticeship reforms actually has been this increasing number of degree and higher level apprenticeships which are now available, which was always a slight restriction with choosing apprenticeships historically. And we heard there, Teddy already mentioned there that about Coventry and the apprenticeships, the degree apprenticeships that are on offer there. So actually you will now have the opportunity to continue your studies and your progression by getting a higher level or a degree apprenticeship. So Kieran, on the next slide, if you can move on, what we can see here is, because there's a, can be confusing around just different language really to describe different levels. So really what we're illustrating in this slide is just so that people can understand and have a clarification around how qualifications that we know, traditional qualifications that we know, how they would compare to the language that you would see for an apprenticeship standard. So we have intermediate apprenticeships, which you may have heard of, which is equivalent to our 5 GCSEs. It's the A star to C or a 4 to 9. And then moving up through to our advanced equivalent level 3. So that would be a couple of A levels. And you can see there how that duration changes, that actually you're looking at potentially 18 up to 48 months worth of an apprenticeship if you were doing an engineering. So even at a level 3, you could be, committing, undertaking, it's 4 years worth of study, which actually alone just shows you just how prestigious that study is. And so higher apprenticeships, now they're sort of really quite new, and that's maybe language that people are less familiar with. Now that is an equivalent to perhaps levels 4 and 5. So an HNC or an HND or the first 2 years of university. And you can see there you would be studying for at least 24 months if you were to take a higher apprenticeship. And actually, there's a recognition that as a country, that we actually that there is insufficient number of people actually qualified at this level, the technical level, where we in the workplace, it's a real sort of hand skills. So it's a really valuable actually skill to be achieving now, and we're really encouraging people to consider that as a progression. Because it can take you into a full degree if that's what you wanted, but actually there's a real value in studying at higher apprenticeships. And then finally, our degree apprenticeships, so they're equivalent, as we've already heard from Teddy, about your levels 6 and 7. And again, it would be, more than 24 months. And that is equivalent to a degree. So if you're doing an apprenticeship, it does not mean to say that it's any more diluted in terms of its value, as you would see with a traditional academic degree that you might be more familiar with. And throughout all of those, it doesn't matter what level you're studying, you will always be gaining the appropriate level of knowledge, skills, and really importantly, the behaviours. You would know how to behave according to that job role that you are working in and studying against as an apprentice. And again, Andrew mentioned earlier on about those really, really critical, essential skills that we know that employers find really desirable. And it's those sorts of behaviours that would be included as part of that training, picked up and learnt within the workplace, but supported through your provider. So I thought you might want to hear about what perhaps a couple, just a selection. We've got nearly 900 apprentices at the college, so we're quite big, but I wanted to just share with you, I've got a video in a second, but these are some of our apprentices, and it helps you to understand actually what the apprenticeship offer is. And I'm not going to read out there what Lana has to say, but she's an HR apprentice and she's working at Heathrow. So that's just a little bit of a sample of opportunity, what you can see there. I mean, she will be studying at a level 3. So that's, excellent. And you can see there that she's getting lots of support and structure from the college, but she's also at work learning that theoretical knowledge as well as putting it into practice. And then on our next slide, we've got a short video, which I hope is going to work, and I hope that the sound is working for everybody. And this is Ryan, who's a level 3 in electrical installation, who works at City Electrics.
Hi, my name is Ryan Carroll, and I'm 17 years old, and I go to Uxbridge College. I find my apprenticeship very good because it gives me a trade that I can use for the rest of my life, meaning I'll never be out of work. Prior to starting my apprenticeship, I was just finishing my GCSEs. And as soon as I got my results, I came to the college and enrolled in the apprenticeship scheme as soon as possible. I decided to enroll into the apprenticeship because I felt it was the best way forward for myself, and I'd wanted to become an electrician for some time, and I wanted to learn hands-on. I've developed a numerous amount of skills. It's hard to name them all, but I can say I've definitely increased my knowledge on how things work behind the scenes electrically, and the facilities here at the college are excellent. And the tutors are very helpful and supportive. I want to get my testing and inspection qualification and stay working for a few more years. And then when I feel ready, maybe start to look into starting my own firm. And I'd highly recommend an apprenticeship for people who are looking to learn any skill in any particular job, because there isn't really a better place to learn these abilities other than on site. So join now.
And then finally, we've got JC, who works for Constellium. And again, Constellium's quite a big company. She's one of our female engineering apprentices. She enjoys working part of the team. And that's how she can see that her skills are developing, as well as you can see there in the picture. That would be a normal part of her day job. And she's enjoying it as a way of study. So, if you think that an apprenticeship is the pathway for you, where you're working full-time and you're combining that with your studies, you've got time and you've got another academic year that you can start to prepare for that. And the college will support you in that process, and we have a dedicated team. But what you need to do and what you can do to prepare for that is remembering that you will have to be employed, and of course that does mean that you have to go through a selection process, and the entry criteria will be set according to the level of the apprenticeship. But also employers will have different expectations, and they'll have a different entry criteria according to the nature of their business. So you do need to get yourself a good CV. And remember that, there may be a few of you that are applying for that job. And so now is the time. And we know a good CV looks like, having some volunteering on there and getting as much experience, work experience as you possibly can while you're in your next year of study. Really, really critically, you must have your English and maths, either at your functional skill level 2 or at GCSEs. And all apprentices have to achieve that in order to succeed on that apprenticeship. So they really, really are. And as we said there, it's vital for employment and for your future progression. So again, if that's something that you're still working through, maybe this is a real driver if you think the apprenticeship is right for you. But also, you've got to remember how employable you are. Just going back, just to finish off that, Kieran, sorry, just a couple there, is that your attendance. And again, next year's an opportunity. Perhaps if this year the attendance is a little bit lower than you would expect it to be or want it to be, get some excellent attendance, because that shows your commitment, and you will need to be committed because you will have to go to work every day. And that is the measure of commitment for employers. So there's a little bit of time still for you to work on that if you need to. And of course, punctuality is included in that. And then throughout that, again, the college will support you with your interview skills, because that's what you would have to do. So, hopefully you'll get shortlisted and we can support you with those skills. So, finding an apprenticeship through the National Apprenticeship Service, we've included a link here. And again, it may be something that people are familiar with, and it's a really, really easy to navigate. So you can put the keywords in there, whatever it is that you think you want your career to be, and enter your location. So it's a very, very easy to navigate service. And every provider, the colleges and other national providers, have to advertise through here, so you won't miss out on anything. And you can see where they are across the country. So again, as I say, it's a fairly easy to navigate process. So just a very quick whistle stop, a couple of slides here about our degree apprenticeships, because I know that this is very new, and there, some sort of clarification. And again, as I said, we've heard that Teddy references for Coventry, which is really exciting. So because it's a degree, you will need, of course, to have those qualifications at level 3. And we've got there, it would be, could be A levels and so on. It might have been another apprenticeship. And all of that will actually absolutely count to go towards that. And again, as we've said, each employer will have a different entry criteria according to the job role and according, of course, to what the provider does. And what we can see on the next slide is just a real overview. Thank you for Digital Skills for putting out the link there in the chat, which is really helpful. But you can see here what's so exciting is that, the apprenticeship offer is not just about those technical. You can see here all the sectors that are now, have these apprenticeships on offer, which is just so exciting, because they're being developed, and there are hundreds of them now, and they're being developed all across all sorts of different sectors. And as you saw there, we had HR alongside the traditional engineering. So I really wouldn't rule it out, and I would talk to your tutor again if it's something that you think you're interested in, and just put into that National Apprenticeship Service, plug it in and see what's out there, because there are so many linked to these job roles. And then just to show you, and the importance of applying early, and some of these large employers that now are really, really seeing the value of apprenticeships within the workplace. And because they know the benefit they bring to the workplace. But they do have their closing dates are looming, and you can see where they are. Some of them are February next year, so it's, not that long away. April, May, it's usually in and around this time of year. But you do need to think about that early, in a similar way that you might do with UCAS and university. This is exactly the same. You've got to get in there early to start thinking about, want to work with some of these larger employers. And the opportunities are absolutely phenomenal. Once you're in there and working with them, the progression routes, are really superb. And so, just a reminder, looking for degree apprentices, exactly the same on that same site, or again, looking through UCAS or into the Rate My Apprenticeship. But you will access an apprenticeship either through a college, through a provider, but you will always have to be linked with an employer, and it might just be the employer, but they will always be common there. And Teddy is put a comment there in the chat about the apprenticeships, a commentary as well. So yeah, it could be with us as a college, but it might be through with a provider, or it might be with an employer. So there are different ways there, and again, it's thinking about it's not necessarily as traditionally as you might normally associate. And just a little bit about us. We do have 900 apprentices. We are the largest college group provider of apprenticeships in West London, which we're really, really proud of. Some of these large employers that we work with, Menzies Aviation, Skanska, based at the airport, Addison Lee, and Brunel University. So universities see the value of it and what it can bring to them as a workplace. And 85% of our apprentices secured employment at the end, which is fantastic, or they go on to further training or even onto that higher education. So we're very proud of our apprenticeship offer. It's very strong. So we do have, and a slide here about parents, and parents actually what you can of course do to support your children into that. And again, it's about building the CV, looking at the websites and so on and so forth. And if you want to move on to the next slide, there's just some contact details here. We have a dedicated team who actually will help to, thanks Emma from Brunel there, but we do have a dedicated team there. Will help you as parents, will help young people who they also connect with the employers. So they actually will bring you together by way of a referral through to known vacancies and helping you with the recruitment and your CV, your interview skills, etc., etc., etc. So it's the dedicated team there. Ask your tutor, but you've got the direct email addresses and the telephone contact numbers there as well. But get going with it now. Get thinking about it now. And that's it from me. And I will be also hanging around afterwards if anybody have any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jo. Right, I'm aware that we're running a little bit behind schedule, but we've just got two more presentations, two very short presentations, and one of them is by Judith O'Neill, again, one of our college directors, talking about a wonderful initiative called the West London Institute of Technology. Over to you, Judith.
Okay, thank you very much, Kieran. I am aware that we're running over, so I will try and keep this pacey for everybody. Good evening, everybody. At HCUC, we've long delivered higher level qualifications, HNCs and HNDs. But now we're really, really proud to be one of the 12 institutes of technology, which is a new national initiative. There are going to be more coming on board. And so I'm here to tell you just a little bit more about our courses within the institute and some of our other HE provision. So thank you. Okay, so Institutes of Technology are very, very much focused on the development of higher level skills but particularly at level 4 and level 5. Level 4 is the first year of degree level, level 5 is the second year of degree level, and level 6 is the final degree level, like year of degree level. And we're really much focused on design engineering, digital skills, and so on within our Institute of Technology. We've got a newly refurbed building with lots of really exciting technical equipment being delivered to make sure we're delivering these courses to the highest possible specification. But there's also a really strong link with our employers so that we can make sure that we're delivering the courses locally that employers need. So our curriculum offer within the IoT, we're offering HNCs and HNDs within computing, cyber security, electronics, mechanical and civil engineering, construction in the built environment, and games development. There are some additional part-time students on some courses. Most of our students are full-time, but we're increasingly offering part-time opportunities for those students who are employed. Within the IoT, we also have some of our apprenticeships are included within the IoT, including infrastructure technician, manufacturing and maintenance operations. And under development, we've got some really exciting new courses, including construction in the built environment management, cloud computing, and higher apprenticeships in software developer and cyber security. And we're also looking to run a range of just CPD courses, sort of bite-sized courses for people who might be working, but they just want to get some additional knowledge in a particular subject area, so just to do one unit of a course, or maybe even think about dipping their toe in the water to try out some higher level study, and then they can see whether or not they like it, and maybe decide to come onto a full-time course. We've got very strong partnerships linked to the IoT. So first of all, one of our key partners, our anchor partners, is Brunel University. And we're really making sure that students are sort of developing their higher level skills as they're going through. So we actually have some PhD students working with us, acting as facilitators. Some of the PhD students have been delivering master classes to some of our HNC, HND students, and helping them with things like their research skills, their data handling skills. And of course, the PhD students are also developing their skills at the same time, which is the important part of the partnership. And they've also been supporting our HNC and HND students, developing some of their wider sort of skills for going into work, sort of management and team level skills. We're also involved in a number of different projects that you saw there, like the high value manufacturing catapults, which is really looking at some research into higher level skills. Our staff are collaborating with Brunel staff, but we're also working on a really exciting level 6 top up. So if you complete an HND with us in electronic and electrical engineering, you'll be able to go straight into a level 6 top up at Brunel, and that's something that we're developing and is going to be coming soon. But employers are a really, really key part of what we're doing at the IoT. As we've shown before with the apprenticeships, we've got partnerships with Heathrow and Constellium, and the employers have got involved not just by sort of putting their names to the courses. They've actually got involved in the unit design and development that we're delivering on our HNCs. So in the way that we actually teach the units and in that actual unit selection, so we can absolutely be sure that what we're teaching is relevant to employers locally. So if you complete one of our courses, you'll know that you've got a course that's relevant to a local employer in terms of getting future jobs. I'd just like to sort of say that I'm going to hand out to our virtual open day to find out more about our IoT. on the 30th of June from 4 o'clock, and then you'll be able to hear from the different curriculum areas about the courses being offered at the IoT. You'll be able to hear a bit more about that. We are actually hoping to be able to have some visits, but we're obviously having to work around COVID regulations linked to that. We'd like you to be able to come in and see some of our fantastic facilities. We do have other HE courses. We have our HNC and HND, as I've mentioned, in games development, but also in business and travel and tourism management. But one of the reasons to be, you can see the pathway here from doing a level 3 to an HNC to an HND, perhaps going on to university to do a top-up, but also going into employment. But there's some real advantages to doing higher level study at the college. We're focusing on higher technical skills, and this is the area where there's a real skill shortage in this country. We have a real skill shortage at level 3, level 4, and indeed level 5. You do have that opportunity to top up to a degree level. The HNCs and HNDs tend to have lower fees than degree courses. Our courses come in sort of close to, depending on the course, £5,500 to £6,000. We can't actually charge over £6,000. So you are getting that higher level study, but without incurring so many fees in relation to student loans. And for many, many students, a lot of them feel quite daunted about the prospect of moving away from home, or perhaps going into those very, very large lecture theatres. Our classes tend to be smaller classes. Generally, we have sort of around about 20 HE students in a class, whereas at university, you could be sitting in a lecture theatre with 100 or 120 students. So for some people, doing their high level study at a college just feels more friendly, more supportive, and closer. And for many students, they want to stay local. It's where their families are. They won't incur sort of living costs and so on. If they're staying with a family, they may have got part-time jobs. You may have got part-time jobs whilst you want to keep up while you're studying. But we are making sure that we are keeping up with all of the sort of new facilities with high-tech equipment. So when you go out, you will have a qualification that's got real currency in the job market.
Great. Thank you, Judith, for that whistle-top tour of our West London Institute of Technology and our HE offer. Just one final presentation now, really some key dates that you as parents and students need to be aware of. Alistair, Dr. Alistair Mullins. Alistair, are you with us?
I am, Kieran.
Over to you, Alistair.
Yep. Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. I will keep this as concise as I can. I have 8 slides to run through with some key information. This last talk is mainly about applying to university, and some of the things I'm going to say also applies to applications for apprenticeships and job applications, but it is mainly university focused. The reason for that is many of our level 3 students, a significant proportion of them, do have university as their chosen progression route. And so in college, we have a number of different ways in which we support students. So starting off with tutorials, and immediately when students return after the half term, we will be talking to them in tutorials about the university admission process and application process. And we will include things like financial assistance and how to apply for that, how to apply for, how the finances work for university. Students also have one-to-one sessions with their tutor, and they will probably be able to get one in before the application process really gets going, and they have one per term. And then lastly, Kieran and his team, the information and guidance team, support many of our students with their applications, and give advice and guidance. So many students know what they want to do, and others have no idea what they want to do, and they can book a careers or guidance interview with Kieran and his team, and that often gets them on the right road. So with the university process, it's called the UCAS process, and it's the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service. and it's a single one-stop admission service. So in most cases, students don't apply to each university individually. They go through this centralized service. It's an online application process, and it has a number of components. Students put in their personal details, they write a personal statement, we put a college reference in place, and we put on college predicted grades. Students would normally apply for 5 courses. We would advise them to keep the courses broadly similar, and they would normally go for 5 different universities. Students would normally get a paper-based offer based upon their application. There are a few universities and a few courses that will invite students in for an interview. They are conducted less compared to how they were a few years ago. But courses like medicine will interview students, and there are some universities that would ask for a portfolio. So courses to do with art will ask for a portfolio. And at the moment, I think universities are mainly looking for a digital portfolio. But I think once the pandemic effects are over, it may be more face-to-face. Once students have heard back from all their 5 universities, they would normally narrow it down to their first choice and then possibly have an insurance choice with a lower offer. And again, at that point, students, often will need advice. What's best? And the offers that students will get could vary quite significantly. In terms of the deadlines for entry next year, we have 3 dates that we have for you. So the portal is already open, and we would advise students to start, to log on and start looking at the portal now. So the first deadline is the 15th of October, and anyone looking to apply to Oxford, Cambridge, or medicine, dentistry, or veterinary science, that is a very hard deadline. 15th of October, so very early, and most students who are looking at those universities and those courses will already know that. Then we have an internal college deadline, and we say that anyone that gets their application in by the 26th of November, we will guarantee to get the application off by the UCAS deadline. And the UCAS deadline is the 15th of January, and this is the official deadline. And students often think when they've hit send that their application goes to UCAS, but it actually comes to the college first, and we still have a job of work to do to put the UCAS reference on and to put the predicted grades on, to check the form and make sure that the students have not made any errors. So submitting it on the 15th of January is probably too late for us to get it to UCAS by their deadline. So there are some reasons to apply early. So the first one is universities will give fair consideration to any application received by the 15th of January deadline. After that, they are not obliged to consider the application, and many popular courses will receive lots of applications. And so when students apply and they've get their early application in, they will start receiving offers. And you can see what is likely to happen or could happen if the course receives lots of applications. Then the universities might start paring back the offers that they're making. It also takes a very long time to put a good application together, and we have students that spend ages and ages. And if this can start to become a detraction from the studies, and so it's really important to put the work in over the summer and get that application in as early as possible. So in terms of next steps, the students should start their online application through the college. And as I said, there's an online portal which is open. If you are unsure about applying, if the student's unsure, it's still worth starting an application because you can always change your mind later. And similarly, if you're unsure about applying and saying, well, I'm thinking about an apprenticeship, I'm thinking about applying for jobs, I'm not sure if I want to go to university, our advice is always put an application in, because you can always, you don't have to accept the offers that come through. You can always pull out, whereas it's much more difficult if you change your mind at a late stage and think, actually, I think I would like to go to university. And if you've not done the legwork, it's hard to get that application done, and you may be disadvantaged by the offer process. You need to research courses in universities. There's lots of excellent stuff online. Start with the UCAS website. All the universities have a website. There are lots of guidebooks, and many have gone online now. You need to look at entry requirements, and also English and maths has already been mentioned this evening, but some universities, some courses will say, well, you need a grade 6 for English, and it's simply, there's simply no point in applying for those courses, or no point sort of looking too much further if you're sitting on a 5. There is a chance to resit your English and maths at college if you find that you're in a position where you need a course, want a course with a higher English or maths grade. You should definitely visit universities. There are open days. Lots are online at the moment, but most universities, now that lockdown is lifted, most can be visited any time. And I have 2 daughters hoping to go next year. And you can just turn up to university, have a look around the campus, get a feel. And it's really important that students realise where universities are. Often their geography is not great. We had a student one year who thought Bath University was just on the Bath Road and was dismayed to find that it was all the way down the M4. Students should start working on their personal statement. Some will redraft it 10, 20, even 50 times. So it's really important to get that personal statement going early. So one more piece of information. I think people are aware of the unusual year that we're in. A-level results and level 3 vocational courses, BTEC, are published on the 10th of August. And if you're waiting for some GCSEs, English and maths, they will come out on the 12th of August this year. Grades will provide you with an excellent start point for where your UCAS predictions are likely to go, but your predicted grades can be influenced by your performance in the autumn term. So if you're a little bit disappointed, for example, with the grades that you've ended up with, working really hard, doing some work over the summer and getting your head down in the autumn term could turn things around. And it's really important that students know their predicted grades, and they need to talk to their teachers in order to make an informed choice. So there's no point in applying for a university that requires 2 A's and a B if a student's on track to achieve 2 C's and a D. So start talking early. Last slide. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Sorry we've overrun this evening. And there's an opportunity for questions, but I think there's a final slide with all our email addresses on. Yes. And given the time, it might be better if you've got some detailed questions to put them on an email. But I'm sure those speakers that are here now, if there are any questions that people want to voice, we're very happy to try and answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alistair. One thing to say when applying to university is that number of parents have had queries about their sons or daughter eligibility because of their EU status. If you've got any queries around eligibility or immigration, we have Afshin online, who's our international officer, who can ask any questions now, or you can see his email address there. You can email him directly. But we're open now for any questions if people we've got a few minutes of questions.
Yep. Is there an order?
Yeah, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure. Go. One at a time, please. Yeah. Hello? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Yeah. So, thank you very much for this. Very informative, useful. So, it's a question around the process of applying, and that's on predicting, as you mentioned, Alistair. That's all good and well. Fast forward when the offers are made and when the actual level grades transpire, and if, for example, my daughter would get grades than the predicted grades, then how would that work if she were get a Russell Group, for example? You wouldn't be able to apply to university because of grades may not be good enough. If the uplift grades is actually unexpected, would she have opportunity to apply to a different university? This is what I think when she gets August 2022.
Yep, I think your connection was cutting in and out a little bit, I think, Rahul, but I think I've got the gist of your question. So if actual grades are better than predicted grades, what happens then? And that does happen every year. There is one option is to decline all the offers that have been made and sort of go in for the clearing process. And clearing can be a little bit varied, but some years there are, a lot of excellent courses that are still available, and clearing means that the courses haven't filled their places up. And so some years Russell Group universities, which I think you mentioned, have places in clearing. If it's gone badly and there aren't the places at clearing, one option is to defer for a year and apply with your actual grades the following year. Most years, we have a small number of students who might choose to do that, or they've performed as perhaps they've expected and we've expected, and feel that they'd like to apply the following year. But I would say in most years, most students do end up with a course that they're happy with. But yeah, we try and get predictions as accurately as we can. And you've probably read that a lot of predictions aren't that accurate. But it doesn't do the students any good if we overpredict, and similarly, it doesn't do them any good if we underpredict. But yeah, they are predictions, and we don't always get it right.
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
I think there was another question.
Yeah,
Omar?
Yeah, I have a question, please. My son, I think he told the college that he's in engineering and he wanted to do the 2 years course. So my question is, if he changed his mind now, is it too late to do just 1 year course and finish this year and go to university, or he has to do the 2 years?
Do you want me to answer that, Kieran? Or
yep. Do you want to pick up on yourself or Judith?
Yeah, I'll start an answer, and then someone can pick up if I've missed something out. It will depend on what other qualifications your son has. So at the end of 1 year, he will receive a qualification, and that, I'm guessing, in terms of the course that he's on, will be equivalent to 1.5 A-levels. And most universities are looking for at least 2 A-levels. If he's already got some other qualifications, then it may in my view, worth looking at. And I know that some universities possibly would take a student with only 1 year under their belt. But my advice would be tread carefully, because if you've not got the full 2 years of a level 3 qualification, your son is likely to struggle at university. But it is possible, and there's such a range of different courses now. There may be something that is appropriate, and I would perhaps point him in Kieran's direction and his team to get some individual advice.
I would agree with all that said, Alison. And what I also would add is that in the future, when your son is looking for work, the large employers will also, as well as asking for a degree, will also ask for a level 3 qualification grades as well. So the advice would be to complete the full level 3.
Can he come and talk to you, for example?
Yes, you can book an appointment with us, myself, or any of the teams. Not a problem. Just ask him to pop in to the career centre next to the main reception.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Alistair, there's a question in the chat which says, if there's no BTEC exams, will the weighting be applied for coursework towards predicted grades?
Okay, if there are no BTEC exams, is there a weighting applied to the coursework towards predicted grades? So perhaps Judith, it's a BTEC question. Can I pass over to you?
It is a BTEC question. So just sort of finding out if this is for looking to go to university this summer or the following summer. Probably the following summer, I'm thinking, for most of the people here.
I think it's for following summer.
for the following.
So basically asking how the predicted grades would be done, given that there's no exams.
No, well, the predicted grades will be based on the teacher assessed grade that your son or daughter is going to get for their course at the end of this summer, if they're on a 1-year course. So there will be an actual grade given to the course at the end of year 1, and so therefore that will be able to will give us a really good sort of basis of information upon which to base the UCAS. Similarly, if they happen to be on a 2-year course at the moment where they won't actually get a certificate this summer, but we will sort of bank those units, we'll bank those grades. We will also know, we have a very, very strong indication upon which to base their work, and that will indeed be based on assignment work that they've submitted and a range of other things upon which the tutors are basing the teacher assessed grades this year. So yes, it will be largely on the work that they've been doing in the last few months. That will inform, but then also it's never too late. They'll be coming back in September, working hard probably for, sort of 6-8 weeks. And so perhaps if their grade from this summer wasn't quite as high as they would want it to be, there's an opportunity to demonstrate, when you're coming back in September, that you might get a higher grade next summer. That could inform the predictions.
Okay, great stuff. There's a question, I'm not sure who wants to pick this, whether Joe, Judith or Alistair, but the question is, what hope is there for those students that for numerous reasons are struggling to get their maths or English GCSE level 3 or level 2 rather?
Yeah.
Grade 4, sorry.
Grade
4, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there definitely is hope. So the first thing is, if the student hasn't got it and they're still with us, they will have the opportunity to take that qualification again next year. And I know that's not what some people want to hear. It does amaze me every year that, it doesn't amaze me. Every year there are students that go to university who don't have either maths or English for a reason. And it does depend, if it's university related, it will depend a little bit on the course that the student's applying for. So, for example, if a student's applying for an art course, my experience is they're probably less worried about getting a GCSE in maths, but they may be more interested in the student getting their GCSE in English because of the writing that needs to go with that course. And likewise, there may be a student whose English is not their first language, who may be struggling with the language side of things, or may be dyslexic. And again, it depends on the course that they're applying for. And I think the same would be applicable to apprenticeships and to employment. But the advice, it is more difficult, but there is definitely hope.
Okay.
Just to add that point there, just picking up from Alistair, thanks Alistair, about apprenticeships. There is an opportunity, if you haven't achieved your English and maths, before you start an apprenticeship, if that's what you want to do, that you are fully assessed to ensure that you're not being disadvantaged in achieving that. But you would be supported throughout the apprenticeship to achieve one of them. We don't recommend both, but to achieve one of them if you've got one missing, in order to gain that as part of that apprenticeship. So yeah, just supporting really what Alice is saying. There is hope. Please don't lose it.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time. If people got any other questions, if they can email the questions to one of the relevant people, you can see the contact details there on the screen. I will be posting this webinar on our website, and I think someone's asked if I can email the contact details to the parents, which I will do. So if you got any questions, but thank you for attending the sessions. I hope you all found it useful, and my apologies at the beginning about the problem with the sound, but hopefully you found it useful, and we will see you again soon. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Kieran. Well done. Thanks all.
Yeah. So bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.